what you think about it. Franklin Boateng is known as the king of trainers and owns more than 1,000 pairs. We'll talk to him in a moment, but new research out today suggests Britain's teenagers own a staggering 58 million pairs. Almost a third of them are not regularly worn. This fast fashion is having a big impact on the environment. The CO2 emissions produced in the creation of all of those trainers is the equivalent of travelling by car around the world almost 50,000 times. So why are young people buying so many pairs? I spoke to Sven Segal, founder of sustainable shoe company Pozu, Charlotte Zamboni from Global Action Plan, the environmental group which conducted the research, and the king of trainers himself, Franklin Boateng.
It's my nickname, the king of trainers, but I've been buying trainers for a very long time, and I don't throw anything away, so that's why it just accumulates. Yeah, or I give it some to charity.
Do you wear them all?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so a different pair every day for
yeah. Well, sometimes I just wear it. It's all special. Sometimes special occasions and things like that. But yeah, I can different pair for a long time.
Okay, and Charlotte, you've been looking into how many pairs of trainers people own. Obviously, this is an extreme case, but I think it's an average of 6 pairs per teenager in this country. Why did you decide to look at that?
Well, we're particularly interested in pressures on young people to consume. There's a culture of materialism and kind of excessive consumption in our country. There's an awful lot of social media advertising at young people, putting pressure on them to buy more and more. And we thought it'd be interesting to see how many trainers they actually owned, as an example, really, of the kind of consumption that they're under pressure to get involved with. We found that each teenager, yes, owns 6 trainers, 6 pairs of trainers, and we looked at what that was for all the teenagers in the country, and that's basically 58 million trainers owned by teenagers in the country.
So what's wrong with it if they do what Franklin does, which is basically they buy them because they like them, they keep them and they wear them a lot if they've got 6 pairs?
I think our concern is that it's the culture around that we're starting to be defined by what we buy. And that it's not really healthy for young people to be defined by what they buy, because that encourages them to see their self-worth as associated with kind of possessions and what they look like.
It's always been like that, hasn't it?
It's always been like that, but we're in a culture of social media and digital marketing, where digital marketing, I mean, trainers, for example, digital marketing is 5 times that of TV marketing. There's no regulation. Young people receive ads from the moment they wake up to the moment they go to sleep. There's no guidelines, there's no inhibition for that endless advertising. And that preys on their need to kind of consume more and more.
So, Sven, that phrase, we're defined by what we buy, there's so much more awareness now around sustainability and eco issues, and you've set up a sustainable, eco-friendly shoe brand. Having worked in the industry, you decided to set this up. How much are people now actually paying attention to that and seeing that as something that they want to be defined by?
Well, surprisingly, the proportion of people who are actually interested in sustainability is growing a lot. I mean, throughout these years, we started 13 years ago, and some people didn't even know what sustainability means back then. Nowadays, I think the younger generation are much more clued up. And yeah, I think we recently started collaborating with Star Wars, and I was just delighted to hear a lot of Star Wars fans actually, although they purchased our shoes simply because it's a Star Wars shoe, when they discovered it's also a sustainable shoe, they were delightfully surprised and really like the purpose behind the brand. So
we're looking at the boots that you're talking about there. I also want to talk about this trainer as well, actually, because you use all sorts of different materials, including this one. Incredibly, I thought it was suede when I saw it, but it's made out of cork. So explain the difference between the processing around, the manufacturing around a sustainable shoe versus a non-sustainable one, from the materials that you use to the who is actually making them? Sure.
So the mainstream shoes are made from all sorts of really nasty chemicals. I think leather is probably the biggest contributor to pollution in the shoe industry. There's a tanning agent called chromium, and chromium is regarded as the 4th worst polluter in the world, yet something like 90% of leather is tanned with this substance, which is absolutely appalling. So this cork, for instance, it just comes from the tree, and you don't harm the tree by harvesting the cork. You basically peel, you peel the bark of the tree, and it regrows after a few years. So it's a renewable resource. So we make shoes from cork as one example instead of leather. We use organic cotton. This is one of our latest materials. It's called apple skin, and it's made from the waste of the apple juice industry.
Oh, that is incredible. I mean, I thought that was leather.
Yes. Yeah. They put like a press with a plate to give the texture of the leather. But yeah, it's made from the fibrous waste of
and so there's so much innovation and labour that will be going into these, and presumably wages are also an issue for you. Does that feed through to more expensive products?
It is currently.
A mass market, well-known brand trainer would be cheaper than something like this, would it?
To produce, certainly.
But the price of selling?
Well, so our approach is we're trying to be as competitive as possible. I think although consumers do care, very few are willing to pay a premium on
because some trainers, obviously,
products.
I mean, you'll know well, they can be hundreds of pounds,
Thousands,
really expensive.
Yeah, some of the pairs over there, like the resale value. The retail value.
Have you got a pair of trainers here that's over £1,000?
Oh yeah, this pair. Yeah, that pair would probably be that's over 1,000, and the Jordan at the end.
Yeah.
That's the white and black one. That's 2,000 to 3,000. Yeah.
But £2,000 to £3,000.
Yeah, the retail
value. Why would
value,
you pay that for a pair
No,
of
the retail value is about £160, but it's the after sale because they're limited.
I see. Okay.
And that's what happens. And a collaboration with Virgil Abloh, designer.
People are prepared to pay a huge amount of money for trainers, obviously. Obviously, Sven's describing the extra costs that go into producing something sustainably, and it does tend to be, or it has been for some time, that it's niche brands that are doing that. How much are sustainable factors filtering through to mainstream brands? Are they filtering through?
Well, I would agree with what Sven says, really, is that we know young people are increasingly aware and increasingly concerned about environmental issues, and we've seen an awful lot of change in the last year, and in the huge amount of enthusiasm and activism. It's difficult for young people to make decisions because it's not very clear to them where sustainable practices are used and where they're not. It's difficult for young people. They haven't got the disposable income to buy sustainable products. I mean, from our point of view, it's better that they buy second-hand, although clearly there's a second-hand market you're referring to here. But I mean, charity shops have a lot of
they can get more expensive in that
market. They can get more expensive, but I mean, there's great ways of buying second-hand trainers. The main thing is that we don't just perpetuate a culture of kind of unthinking, endless buying where we buy in volume. I mean, interestingly, we looked at the leading online retailer, and if you Google white trainers, you get 1,161 different styles of white trainer available to you. And that's kind of mass consumption of a kind of scale that is unhealthy for the world, but very unhealthy for young people too, to just constantly feel that they should be kind of consuming at that kind of level and buying that much in such a kind of thoughtless way.
It's been really interesting to talk to all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.